Thank you for joining me, Ben, here at the NEBA conference.
Thank you for having us.
Excited to talk more about your company. You're the founder and CEO of Sift. Tell us what that stands for and the mission behind the company.
Sure. CIFT actually stands for the Cannabis Infrastructure and Technology Group. And really, our main focus is to provide the ancillary product services and technologies to commercial scale licensed producers so that they can scale and really maximize their profitability. Because we really see the need for high quality, consistent product because there's so many medical applications and benefits that we really haven't really delved into, especially here in the United States. Unfortunately, with cannabis still being a Schedule I drug, there hasn't been the research that's been done in Israel and in other parts of the world because, again, they see absolutely no medical benefit from it, unfortunately. With the new Farm Bill, CBD has come off the Schedule I, which is great, which is a great first step, but it still needs to continue to progress.
You seem to be bridging the gap between Wall Street and Main Street, particularly within the cannabis industry. Explain how that process is going and some of the misconceptions that still exist to date.
Sure. I remember going to MJ BizCon, which is one of the largest cannabis business conferences in Vegas several years ago. And back then you had the people that you knew were in the industry because they had cargo shorts on, they had tie-dye shirts, and then you had all the money guys who were in suits like the investment bankers and whatnot. And both groups wanted to work together. Right, the money people wanted to invest, in these industry veterans, and the industry veterans wanted to, expand their businesses, right? But they could never really connect because, again, most of those industry veterans were considered criminals not that long ago, right? So there's significant mistrust still in, the industry because all these people who, for lack of a better term, poo-pooed them for the longest time, right, now want to get involved and basically want to take over the industry. So, it really is, a major, I guess you can say, goal of ours to really connect the two groups because if there's mistrust, the industry veterans won't be as open-minded to, I guess, adopt some of the systems or technologies or other things that we can bring in from other industries that could really help and advance the industry.
That's an excellent point in today's market, and in particular in the history of a company's corporate reputation. Trust and credibility are the most important elements. How do you apply your own management style to that and what you've brought to this new company? You founded the company about a year ago?
Correct.
So, and I know being here at the NEBA conference is a big part of that and establishing that trust with the investors here. But explain how you've applied your own philosophy to really start establishing trust in such a controversial industry.
Well, I think it's all about authenticity, right? If you're not authentic, if you're not congruent with who you are as a person, right, then I think it's very difficult for you to gain trust and build rapport with people. So, I always try to live my life, whatever I say, whatever I think is what manifests itself into the physical world. So, for me, it's about just if I tell you I'm going to do something, right, then it will be done. There's no room for negotiation there. And if I tell somebody that, hey, listen, this is what we're going to do with our company, this is what we're going to do with this particular acquisition, then we have to ensure that we follow up with whatever we said we're going to do.
That's a great concept. The segment that you're doing this interview for is called Renaissance Minds, which really applies a modern Renaissance mindset. Tell me how your personal philosophy to innovation has started to not only influence the current company that you're leading, but just throughout your career. Talk to us about the background.
Sure. With regards to, so the question was innovation, right?
Yes.
In Renaissance. Okay, so what I would say is in this day and age, you have people that can't be one-trick ponies anymore, as we were speaking about earlier. You really need to be somebody that has skill sets across multiple areas of their life and in business and whatnot. And we really want from an innovation perspective to bring on technologies that are able to provide us with obviously a competitive advantage, against all of our competitors, but really, just advance the industry as a whole. Because with all the different technologies that we see out there, right, some of them are phenomenal, but the industry is so young and still in its infancy, a lot of people haven't gone through the cost-benefit analysis of whatever technology that they're implementing, right? And even the people that are, I guess you can say, more scientific in implementing certain things, they're basically implementing 10 things at a time, right? At the same time, instead of getting a baseline of, okay, here's where we are, let's try one thing, right? See if there's an improvement, see what it actually costs to implement that particular technology, and see if it actually makes sense, right? But they're just throwing everything all at once. But eventually we'll get to a point where the industry is more mature, where it will be more scientific, it'll be more data-driven. And we believe that if we can figure out an integrated ecosystem, right, is really what we're focused on. Creating an integrated ecosystem that allows us to automate and systematize the entire process from seed to sale. That's really going to help us provide extremely high quality product, consistently. And again, from a medical perspective, if you're ingesting something that's naturally derived, right, it's more difficult to really get consistency, right? Because it varies from bud to bud on a plant and plant to plant, right? So for example, one of the technologies that we have is a fractionation or separation technology. So that allows us to separate the actives from one another. So for example, when you extract oil from the plant, right, it has everything in there. So there's THC, there's CBD, CBA, CBG, all the different cannabinoids. So we're actually working on research to identify the specific cannabinoid profiles that work for a specific indication. So for example, epilepsy, leukemia, brain tumors, so on and so forth. And once we're able to identify the specific profile, then we can separate out the cannabinoids and then create a formulation to attack that specific disease.
Sounds fascinating.
So and again, I think that's really where the the industry will move towards. And from a medical perspective, it's going to get to that point. And again, I think there's going to be a bifurcation of the medical application of cannabis and also the recreational.
Sounds fascinating, and definitely seems like you've applied a building block approach to your not only management philosophy, but with taking part of your background in pharmaceuticals. Tell us about what made you get started in that industry.
Yeah, so actually it happened just through complete happenstance. But I will say, I was born on 420, so I can say I was born for the industry. But I was actually working for a pharmaceutical company that does novel, drug delivery technologies. Basically, one of them is an oral thin film, basically a Listerine breast strip that we can infuse with pharmaceutical, nutraceutical, veterinary, and also cannabis. And my partner at the time had a cannabis company, and it was just kind of not really doing anything. And he said, hey, listen, I really want you to focus on this. I want you to take this over. And that's how I kind of got introduced to the industry, and that was several years ago. And we started this CIFT Group last year, and we're really excited about what we're doing. And unlike a lot of the other cannabis companies out there, we actually are generating revenue. We actually are profitable, which is pretty incredible because there's a lot of companies out there that are pre-revenue, or their burn rate is so high, that they're nowhere close to profitability. So I think that's a real feather in our cap.
Absolutely. You mentioned that some of the markets are more advanced. What other markets do you find are leading the way in this industry?
I would say Canada is one of the leading ones, in Israel as well. Israel definitely from a research perspective. They have some of the brightest minds, obviously, in the world in Israel, and they're significantly more progressive than they have been here in the United States. I don't think Canada is as advanced with regards to the research portion of it, but they really are the leader of kind of like the global cannabis expansion. And it's funny because the United States is the only country in North America that still has criminalized cannabis. Canada did away with it, so did Mexico. So we are still behind the times from a global perspective.
That's very interesting. Where are you from originally?
Actually, I was born in Hong Kong. And then raised in South Florida. Then, as we were speaking about earlier, lived in LA for the last 3 years. And it's California has been a very interesting market as well. It was actually the leader. I believe it was 96, or don't quote me on that. I think it was 96 when they passed Prop 64. But they're still having significant growing pains, which is interesting. I think that really has to deal with the I guess you can say, ready, aim, what is it, shoot, and then ready, aim, I guess you can say, process that they've utilized in the state. But states like Colorado, Florida, Washington have learned from their mistakes. And they're much better off than what California's been doing recently. They're actually changing the laws again, which is just, I don't know why they're doing it, but here we are again.
And you've made a lot of progress, and I think having a global mindset is incredibly important in the industry that you're in. Lastly, I think it would be great just to get a feel for any hobbies or any hidden talents that you find have impacted your thinking as you continue to establish your organization, or any other thoughts on just in general, the influence to your philosophy.
Yeah. Well, when I'm not working, I love to work out. I definitely look at it as more of a lifestyle, right? I definitely will wake up in the morning, run in the morning, work out at night, 2 days, so to speak, eat really healthy, follow my macros, extremely disciplined in that sense. And, it allows me to not have to spend too much energy. Because as a CEO, you're constantly making decisions, right? So you're just trying to eliminate the superfluous decision making that you really don't have to make, and that's what Steve Jobs was great at. Right? He always wore the same thing, right? And it eliminated a lot of that energy that that it takes to say, oh, what am I going to eat today, or what am I going to wear today? So I definitely look at that as one of the I guess you can say guiding principles that I live by. I really think that with the way that I guess you can say, the society is evolving, we're really going to see some, significant shifts in, like I said, people being authentic and people living more of a healthier lifestyle instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to diet. It's really more of a lifestyle change than anything else.
Well, that's fascinating, and it definitely has an impact. And it's always great to see what CEOs that are leading the way in an industry such as this one are passionate about. So I thank you so much for allowing us to speak with you a little bit about your Renaissance mind, and thank you again for being here today.
Great.
Good luck with
thanks
all.
for having me. Appreciate it. Thank you.